If you've ever felt pressured to have discipline and change your life overnight, take a breath. You're not alone. We live in a society that glorifies productivity, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed by all the expectations. You wake up beating yourself up for not doing enough yesterday, and you're already stressed about what needs to be done tomorrow. But what if I told you that you don't have to pressure yourself like that? You can change your life, but in a way that feels lighter and more manageable. The key isn't in forcing yourself, it's in learning how to handle your emotions and habits step by step, at your own pace. Ready to find out how? Let's do this together. So, here's the deal. More and more people are realizing something's off, right? And the weird thing is that it's not just older folks. It's actually happening to younger people too. It's like you keep bouncing from one distraction to the next, telling yourself you'll do it tomorrow, beating yourself up and then starting all over again. Sound familiar? And here's the kicker. Most people, when they decide to look for help, end up in the wrong place. Usually, what they find is a bunch of advice like, just stop using your phone, just get up and do it, you've got to build discipline. And yeah, those ideas can work for some people. But let's be real. If you're already deep in that cycle of watching endless motivational videos and still not changing, it's not that simple. You watch, you get hyped, maybe even try to change, but deep down, you already know it's not gonna work. And that frustration, it just pulls you deeper into the habits you're trying to break. It sucks, right? So let's sit down for a sec because I want to explain why this happens. You've probably heard people talking about dopamine, like all the time. It's basically the star of every video about addiction or bad habits, and honestly, they're not wrong. People say stuff like, your dopamine receptors are fried from overstimulation, or your brain's reward system is out of whack. And yeah, that's all true. After a big dopamine spike, your levels drop, making even simple things feel boring. That's why watching a 10-minute video feels like a chore sometimes. But here's the thing, while that's scientifically accurate, it's not the full story. What people often miss is why you're seeking that pleasure in the first place. If you're out with friends, having a blast, are you really thinking about pulling out your phone? No, right? You're too busy enjoying yourself. But if you're feeling low, stressed, or bored, bam, your brain goes hunting for an easy hit of dopamine. The real issue isn't dopamine itself, but the negative emotions that push you towards seeking it. And that's what fuels addictions and bad habits. Your brains struggle to handle those negative feelings. Now, your brain is super smart when it comes to weighing the pros and cons of what you want. And it's a big but, it's terrible at choosing the best way to get there on its own. That's why those alpha male speeches like work while they sleep, study while they party, and you'll live your dreams don't always work. Sure, it sounds cool and motivating, but when you think about it, your brain's probably asking, wait, why should I work so hard now when I can just enjoy stuff today? It's not that you're consciously deciding to slack off, but deep down, that's the struggle. And that, my friend, is why it's so hard to change. The biggest mistake people make when trying to change is thinking they have to overhaul their entire life at once. Sorry to burst your bubble, but that's not how it works. Trying to do it all at once, that's exactly what's holding you back. It's like your brain is fighting against you, pushing you toward instant comfort and keeping you stuck. So let's dive into what actually helps. You with me? And hey, if you're enjoying this content and finding it helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. It really helps us reach more people who might need this. And if you want to take it a step further, consider becoming a member to support the channel and help us keep creating more content like this. Every bit of support goes a long way. Thanks so much. Okay, let's get real for a second. How many times have you watched a motivational video, read a self-help book, and suddenly thought, tomorrow's the day, I'm gonna eat healthy, work out for 2 hours, meditate, crush my hobby, read and study for hours? Sounds awesome, right? But come on, you and I both know that's not happening. Now, don't get me wrong. Getting hyped up with videos or learning from books, podcasts, or interviews is great. Seriously, it's awesome to fill your brain with good stuff. But the problem isn't the motivation, it's what you do with it. We're so harsh on ourselves sometimes, right? We push ourselves too hard and forget to show even a little bit of self-compassion. I'm not saying we should just sit around doing nothing and pretend everything's fine. Nah, that's the other extreme, and trust me, you don't want to go there either. Here's the thing, you get excited, you start doing the thing, but there's a trap waiting for you. And it's sneaky. You're all fired up, imagining the perfect outcome, like you're already at the finish line, everything done, and life is amazing. Sounds motivating, right? But hold on a sec. When you fixate on that dream too much, you're actually setting yourself up for disappointment. Why? Because it makes you forget that real day-to-day progress takes effort, and effort doesn't always look or feel glamorous. And honestly, that's just unfair to yourself. Think about it like this. Let's say you want to be an artist, right? So you start practicing, but instead of focusing on getting better step by step, you're spending hours on social media, staring at other people's masterpieces and comparing yourself. So when you struggle to draw a simple circle, which, by the way, is totally normal for a beginner, you get frustrated and want to give up. Does that sound fair to you? No way. Now imagine if a friend came to you with the same problem. They're trying to be an artist. They show you their not-so-great attempt, and they're feeling down about it. Would you pile on the pressure and tell them they're a failure? Of course not. You'd tell them to keep going, be patient, and remind them that progress takes time. That's what self-compassion looks like. And it's the opposite of impulsively trying to change everything at once. When you're working on self-discipline or building new habits, your brain will start feeding you thoughts like, "Ugh, I only studied for 30 minutes instead of 2 hours. What's the point?" Or, "I woke up late, didn't work out, ate junk food for breakfast, so I'll just skip studying today." And you know why this happens? Because deep down, your brain knows you're not going to do everything perfectly, especially not right away. And guess what? You already know it too. But here's the kicker. When that little voice in your head says, "I won't go to the gym for a bad workout, I'll just go tomorrow," or "Why start studying now if I'll only get 20 minutes in?" It's setting you up to fail. It's playing this sneaky game where it makes things seem all or nothing. And let's be honest, if it's all or nothing, we usually end up choosing nothing. This is the tricky part. Your brain gives you this false choice, knowing full well what you'll pick. It's impossible to change everything at once, right? So you fall into this trap where you think it's either a perfect day or it's a wasted day. You tell yourself, "This little effort doesn't count, I should have done more. Maybe tomorrow I'll get it right. Should I even bother? This is hard." And then what happens? You start blaming yourself. You feel anxious, stressed, frustrated. Your mind is putting you in this corner, loaded with negative emotions that you just can't handle. So, where do you turn to escape that discomfort? You guessed it, back to those same old habits you've been trying to break. It's a vicious cycle, and we've all been there. But here's the good news, it doesn't have to be this way. You can break out of it by learning how to manage those emotions, by being kind to yourself, and by focusing on small, consistent steps instead of trying to change your entire life overnight. Trust me, that's where the real growth happens. Let's talk about something super important that not a lot of people realize. Attention comes before control. Think about it. Before you can really make any changes in your life, you've got to first understand what's making you feel bad, right? It's like trying to treat an illness without even knowing what's wrong. So ask yourself, what's bugging you? Is it boredom? Anxiety about the future? Feeling guilty because you're putting things off? Maybe it's stress from arguing with someone you care about or worrying about what people think of you. It could be a mix of things. But the main thing is to step off this autopilot mode where you're just reacting to everything that happens to you. And all day, you're getting hit with negative emotions. Like say you had a fight with your girlfriend and you feel terrible. What do? You grab your phone and boom, you're lost in a YouTube rabbit hole. But hold up, that's not the answer. the way we live, all the habits we've built. They're just our brain's way of adapting to what life throws at us. But we don't have to depend on distractions to feel better, you know? I get it. Facing your problems and really thinking about them is tough. It can even throw you into this spiral of bad thoughts and anxiety. And before you know it, you're back in the same old mess. I'll be making a video diving deep into this topic soon, but here's a quick heads up. The things that happen to you don't define who you are. And trust me on this, using distractions to escape your thoughts only makes your mind scarier over time. Here's where it gets real. Be honest with yourself. Don't downplay your feelings. Your suffering is valid. It's not about you being lazy or lacking willpower to change. Life throws real obstacles in your path that make it hard to do what you want. So, no. It's not just about getting up and doing it or ignoring your emotions because they're useless. That's not how it works. And just because you watch a video on top 10 signs you have a DHD doesn't mean you've got a disorder. Look, the key here is gradual change. Don't overwhelm yourself by trying to fix everything at once. Start small. Maybe tomorrow you'll set aside just 20 minutes to study or work on something that matters to you for 20 minutes. It doesn't have to be huge. What matters is that you focus on just that one thing for a short, manageable amount of time. The reason a small time frame works is that it helps you focus. Most of us have been taught since we were kids that to do things right, we've got to lock ourselves away for hours, cut off distractions, and just power through it. But honestly, I don't think it has to be that extreme. I believe a better way to build discipline is to train your mind to handle things in bite-sized chunks. That way, over time, you'll be able to focus without needing to lock your phone in a drawer 3 rooms away. Sure, being able to focus for hours sounds great, but it's not where you'll start. You're not going to go from zero to hero overnight. Real focus and discipline take time to build. It's like we underestimate what we can accomplish in the long run, but overestimate what we think we can do in a single day. Just look at some stats. Back in 2017, the World Health Organization said Brazil was the most anxious country in the world and the 5th most depressed. And guess what? Those numbers haven't changed much. Don't believe me? Let's see, can you go to the bathroom without taking your phone? Can you eat lunch without watching a video? The first thing you do in the morning is probably checking social media, right? Yep, I'm that annoying voice right now, but it's true, this is a problem. Remember when I talked about the inability to tolerate negative emotions? Well, think about how weak that skill is if you can't even handle the boredom of going to the bathroom without some kind of distraction. Relax, okay? You've lost some self-control because your brain is all mixed up from being overstimulated constantly. When you're not doing anything, that's when you really exist without all the noise. No ego, no anxiety, no stress. Think about it. When you're in the bathroom, everyone's equal. You sitting there is the same as, I don't know, Brad Pitt sitting there. What I'm getting at is that you need to give your brain a break. Let it process what's happening around you without always rushing to distract yourself. Stop comparing yourself. Stop criticizing yourself. Humans weren't designed to receive random bursts of information all day without a break. That's why you're so anxious and filled with negative thoughts. And when something happens, you spiral into self-destructive thinking and can't take action. It's a cycle that keeps pushing you to seek pleasure as an escape. But just like with any other change, try doing it little by little. The next time you sit down to eat, don't watch anything, just eat and be with yourself. And hey, the person you need to get comfortable with the most is yourself. At the end of the day, that's who you're stuck with forever, so you might as well learn to enjoy your own company, right? I know the idea of being alone with your thoughts can feel scary, especially if your mind tends to attack you, but eventually you're gonna have to face it. And it doesn't have to be a terrifying experience. When something bad happens or a weird thought pops into your head, remember, it's not who you are. You're always changing. Yeah, tough situations suck and they can feel paralyzing, but it doesn't have to stay that way forever. A lot of people who hear the advice to love yourself have probably been hating themselves for years, but it doesn't have to be like that forever. Trust Try taking a step back from the situation and see it from a new perspective. Don't tie your identity to the bad things that happen. Just because you didn't do your homework and your mom called you lazy doesn't mean you're lazy. Likewise, just because you didn't finish something doesn't mean you're some perfect example of productivity who just didn't feel like it. It's all about balance, growth, and seeing things as they really are, not letting your brain trick you into believing you're stuck. Here's the thing, you're above all the noise. What you did or didn't do in the past doesn't define what you'll do next. It's not up to your past mistakes, future worries, or what people think about you. And honestly, it's not up to your mom or anyone else either. Let go of everything that isn't in the present. Drop the ego. Don't label yourself a failure for what you didn't do, but also don't get caught up thinking you're some secret genius who's beyond it all. Okay, maybe you haven't changed yet. And yeah, the thought of starting tomorrow feels overwhelming. So what can you do? Simple. Start now, right where you are. Let's talk practical tips. One cool technique is called urge surfing. It's like riding a wave when you feel the temptation to do something, whether it's reaching for that chocolate or falling back into old habits. But instead of forcing yourself not to do it or distracting yourself, you pause. Take a breath and just pay attention. Pay attention to what, though? To what you're feeling. When that strong urge hits, it's almost physical, right? You feel it pushing you. But the trick isn't to fight it, it's to observe it. Imagine this. It's Saturday, 3:30 p.m. You're alone, lounging on the couch with your phone, and you feel that familiar pull, that urge to check something, maybe even something you're trying to quit, like watching certain content. It's the perfect storm. You're in the ideal setup for the temptation to hit. And here's what happens. Your brain starts playing tug of war. Part of you wants to resist, but another part is making excuses, saying, it's fine, just this once. Here's where you stop. Put the phone down. Don't distract yourself with another activity. Just sit there. Do nothing. Don't text a friend. Don't watch a video. Just observe the feeling. You'll notice that the urge will grow for a bit, but then it'll fade. It's like a wave. It rises, then it falls. The truth is, you don't actually need to act on that urge. It's just an impulse, and like all impulses, it passes. You don't have to control the feeling, you just have to sit with it, and over time, you get better at doing this. This is a skill like any other. You're not pulling your brain in 100 different directions. Instead, you're training it to focus on what you want. You're showing yourself that you control your attention. No matter how many urges pop up, you're not going to lose control if you just stop and observe. Another great tip that worked for me is setting time limits. For example, if you want to study tomorrow, put it in your calendar. Study from 2 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Be specific about what you'll do, whether it's reviewing notes, practicing problems, whatever it is. The focus here is on the time, not the results. What does this do? It disconnects the feeling of accomplishment from how much you achieved and instead ties it to the time you spent working. So instead of getting upset that you only finished 10 pages when you wanted to do 20, you can feel good that you studied for the time you planned. It's about being consistent, not perfect. It's better to have steady, simple 30-minute study sessions than to push yourself for 2 hours one day and then burn out for the next 2 months. Why does this matter? Because that's what keeps you going. Even if you only manage 2 push-ups today, feel good about it. When was the last time you went to bed satisfied with what you did, instead of stressing about tomorrow, regretting yesterday, or dreading the future? Most of us are so hard on ourselves that we ignore the progress we made. We don't give ourselves any credit, and that's unfair. So, next time you make a small step, whether it's resisting an urge for a day, sticking to a study schedule, or eating healthier for a week, acknowledge it. Don't brush it off. Real change happens when you pause, reflect, and let yourself feel good about what you've done today. when you stop treating life like a race and realize that, yes, you've got problems to face, but you're capable of handling them, you'll finally be able to rest. You'll give yourself permission to lie down at night with a smile, knowing you're making progress at your own pace. And honestly, that's how you win. All right, so that's the big takeaway. You don't need to pressure yourself to have perfect discipline overnight. It's all about taking small, manageable steps and understanding your emotions and habits. Progress comes with time, and it's totally okay to move at your own pace. Remember, it's not about perfection. It's about consistency and learning to appreciate every little win along the way. Thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and share this video with someone who could really use it. Also, feel free to drop a comment below. I read and respond to all of them, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let's keep this conversation going. See you in the next one.